And good morning. Welcome inside the bottom line. Lanny Ford, Ford River here with you on a Tuesday morning, cool Tuesday morning. This may be the last day of heat. A few raindrops rolled through here this morning, and maybe some more later on this afternoon or into the evening. They're talking about 7 or 8 o'clock when the rain will come through, and then after that, we're talking about 70-degree weather in the near future. So maybe we've gotten rid of that last, summer bubble, and it's not too soon for me to get rid of that summer bubble. I can tell you that, because I'm ready for that to go away. I'm ready for some cooler weather. First weekend of NFL football. Some surprises, some not surprises.
Wow.
I got a new thing that I'm going to do starting tomorrow. On any day that we're not on the air in the morning, I'm going to give you my bottom line observation for the day and just ask you your thoughts and some of the things that I see. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Tell me what I'm missing, because I like to learn. I don't have all the answers. I do have all the questions, but I don't have all the answers. So I'll be glad to take on anything that you may throw at me. I am completely good with we can agree to disagree. And I'm completely fine with that. That's not a problem for me at all. So glad to have you in here this morning. Richie's in the house, I see. There's some other folks I can see online watching. I just can't see those names from here, but glad to have you along with us. Let's start, before we go NFL, let's go college. There were some huge surprises, I think, over the weekend. We found out who some people were. We found out who some people weren't. I think that's the first thing that we found out. And there's good games coming up this weekend as well. But let's go back and take a look at we started last Saturday. Notre Dame over State. Carolina beat Appalachian. We watched that game. We were out the coast. We watched that game. In my opinion, and I'm a little more risk taker, I would have went for the fourth down, the fourth and a yard, and they just kind of played around, playing for overtime. You don't. What is the rule that you've heard? Do you play for overtime at home, or you play for overtime on the road?
I think a lot of times the philosophy is, go for the win at home and overtime. And then some people say, no, actually, it's go for the win on the road.
I would.
And play for overtime at home.
Well, let's just be honest. I'd go for the win anytime.
Well, yeah, and the thing about it is, too, Appalachian, I think I told you this when we were watching it. I really feel like their coach thought, if we go into overtime with Carolina, we're going to beat them because they can't stop us. They can't. Effectively. Well, maybe that didn't work out.
So tell me,
I think I'm pretty sure that's what they were thinking, because of all the yardage, that was being given up.
Tell me this. Say more about my favorite question. Say more about Carolina, or say more about Appalachian?
I think it says more about Carolina because, a year ago, even though they outscored App theoretically up at App, and it's a big fourth quarter back and forth.
120 points, over 120 points.
I still believe, after watching them for 2 weeks, that Carolina is much better defensively, and that will only continue to get better. It didn't look like it as much on Saturday, but every opponent is not going to play like it's the Super Bowl. And so that's the thing about managing a season. Last year, Appalachian, which is understandable, when they play against an opponent like a Carolina, that is kind of like their Super Bowl. That's as high as they're going to go. They got to do these things. And the problem is they go and they beat somebody else. Who was it, A&M or whoever, whatever, but yet have trouble with other opponents during the season. So it's more about the marathon than it is a sprint, and being able to manage that energy and focus all year. And people say, yeah, but you got to play to get hyped up while you're playing, who you're playing that week. And I mean, that's true, but you play a season and not a game. And so while you're focusing on that week's game, you have to realize that the progression of the season. And you brought that up. Are we better and playing better middle end of the year than we were at the beginning, or did we play the very best we could play, the first couple of weeks?
Right.
So that it'll be interesting. App has a great team. Carolina's going to do really well. So, I think in the ACC. So I think, you know, both teams are set to have pretty good seasons.
I think one of the things that it says about Appalachian, if they were in the ACC, they would be a middle of the road. They would not be at the bottom like a lot of folks think. And here's the other thing, the most surprising stat from this game, and this is the one that gets me. Drake May was not the top passer in that game.
Oh, yeah.
Aguilar, quarterback for App State, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And Drake May's picked to be 1 or 2 in the upcoming NFL draft coming up next spring.
Yeah. But in that game, again, that's the difference, I think, between trying to win a game and managing a game. I don't think Drake May has to go out and be, you know, all of this and all of that where he can manage the game and manage the process. And Appalachian State, you know, their quarterback absolutely was going to have that many yards. There was no doubt about it. And again, App being in the middle of the road, the ACC, I don't know that because those players play with a chip on their shoulder. You know, we're not. It's kind of like East Carolina, right? You know, when they play in ACC school, you know, we're not in the league with you guys, so here it comes. You get in the league, it's not as new. Complacency sets in, and then you just go out and compete. Unless you're a top-tier team with a top-tier program and coach. So.
The difference, running back for Carolina, Hampton, 26 carries, 234 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He was a beast in that game. Clemson took care of Charleston Southern, 66-17, but it was ugly in the beginning. It was ugly. It was 24-17 at halftime, and it was ugly. Georgia beat Ball State, Michigan over UNLV. Here's the first surprise, Texas over Alabama at Alabama.
Well,
could the mystique coming off of Alabama? I did.
You picked Texas. You did.
I told you from the beginning.
And that was a great pick. You know, I got to tell you, Texas just helped Alabama win the national championship. They did. And
we'll see.
Well, the reason that they play those games early on is because it doesn't affect them later. They play that game in 8 weeks. It'd be like last year, man, you're out.
Yeah.
You're out.
Yep. Richie said, are the Jets in NFL purgatory? We'll get to that in a little bit. Andrew, good morning. Milton, good morning. Richie said, does the UNC app say more about those teams or the chickens? I think the chickens are a little overrated. I'm sorry. It is. College football's upside down right now, Milton says. Colorado might be for real. You're going to find out if Colorado's for real in 2 more weeks. Not this week. They play Colorado State this week.
Yep.
They should be 3-0, and then they'll take on Oregon.
Yeah.
And you'll find out how good they are.
Well, that's right, and it's a good measure to see the progress, you know, not only of that program, but where things are fitting in and fitting up, right? You know, against that kind of competition. Where do they play that game?
Or at the Oregon game, I think they are at Oregon.
That's what'll really tell. Okay, but I will tell you that, you know, following Deion, obviously as a player, you know, I mean, look, he played in the NFL and he played in Major League Baseball. And sometimes both in the same day are tried to.
Right.
I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. This is a person that understands. He's Deion Sanders, but also he's prime time. He has ultra personality that still wants to do the right thing for the right reasons. One's just more in your face, and the other one is just, well, I'm Deion. So,
I'm going to tell you this. He was. I like the way he handles the press. He, you know, if there's anybody that knows how to be flamboyant, he does it. He's very humble. Oh yeah. Gives all the credit to his kids. And I mean, I think there's some people going to be really surprised by it.
How about this, Laney? He does everything for the benefit of others because of who he is. He's able to maximize the gifts and talents and the good graces that he's been entrusted and, you know, given and entrusted with to make those around him better. His goal is, you know, obviously they want to win games, but look how much better he makes every player on that team just interacting. You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't run out there and try to tell everybody what to do. He shows them
Very,
how.
very seldom does he put a headset on.
Well, the thing about it is, and coaches, head coaches that manage, not ones that are play callers. That is different, right? We know that. Mm-hmm. You and I know that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
But the biggest thing he's got going is he knows he's not a play caller.
Well,
he's not an X and O's guy at that level, but he is a technique, foundation, get you ready to play guy.
This is how you do it, not what you got to do. This is how you do it. Let me show you. Let me share with you all the intangibles. All of the things, all the metrics that it takes, the thought process. How to handle the situation. There's nobody that's been on a bigger stage than him. He played in the World Series and an NFL football game the same day.
Yeah,
that's the biggest stage you can get on.
Andrew, you're right. Texas was very impressive. Good morning, honey. My wife says, I told y'all Clemson straightened up when her and Mandy got back and cheered. Yeah, after they got done shopping. Lindsay Lee, good morning. Andrew said, I'm worried that Milroe can't get it done for Bama. Is that the quarterback?
Yeah, now that is a valid point. Andrew has a good point, but I will tell you that he needed, and Andrew and I have talked about this in the past with just kids in general, they need to be able to make these mistakes in order to be, taught, because the game is so much faster. It's like Andrew and I a couple years ago were talking about, DJ went in for Trevor, and man, he looked great. He did this, he did that, and then he comes and he does it, and then it's a little tougher. That's because it's a little different when you're the guy instead of a guy filling in for the guy. Milroe last year was a guy filling in for the guy. Now he's the guy. He's got to go through these things. Any quarterback does. Kind of like the boy from Texas last year. Great player, Sarkisian. Wow. The play calling in that game against Saban's defense was incredible. The manipulation tactics, the ability to send the tight end, not only in a drag route, but almost a drag, almost what we used to call a pull route, where he's across the field and just kind of pulls it up the field instead of just straight across, right? Finding that open space. That was incredible. And the manipulation tactics that were used to be able to take advantage of situation are things that Ewers, the quarterback, I believe at Ewers, whatever, at Texas can do. These are the things that Milroe will do to take the next step and learn how to do those through play calling. So, yeah, I think he'd be okay, but he's got some growing pains to go through.
Yeah, we'll try to get into that later, Lindsay. If not today, we'll do it Thursday. The whole Tez Walker thing, the Board of Trustees at Carolina they are analyzing what they could do from a legal standpoint. Stephen asked that question for me and you yesterday, and my answer was this. Regardless of what they do, they can't get it done enough to save this kid's career in college football. He's going to be old enough to go to the NFL. If he's good enough to play, he's going to make the move because he's tired of the bull crap going on. So this is not going to be fixed this year. Go ahead and get over that. Not unless the NCAA buckles under or there's some kind of federal injunction or something comes down.
This is the problem, though. He transferred, and 2 days later after he put his transfer in, then they changed the rule. So how do you – after something's already happened, you come in and say, we're
should be grandfathered.
I think that's the issue that most people have. It's not that the rules are the rules. They're trying to say, well, we don't have to play by them. I don't care what team it is, what university, whatever. That's not the case. This it's not cut and dry because of the parts of it. But remember, the school he was at shut their season down. We are the land of opportunity, okay? Not the land of run and hide or take this opportunity away and then not provide another one, okay? We can't have it both ways. All right, you have two choices in life, okay, when you're an athlete. All right, you can either live on your knees as a player or you can die on your feet. Okay? And most of them are going to stay on their feet and do everything they can do to get, that experience in, because they only have a certain window. When you sit back in a chair, not you, of course, third person, and you say, well, these rules here for the benefit of these kids, and and then you have your brandy and you sip it and dip your cigar and talk about how much you've done and say, nobody wants to hear that crap, okay? We're beyond that, okay? Oh, I'm smarter than you. It's kind of like when somebody at the High School Athletic Association said, well, I'm privy to more information than you are.
Then you need to share.
I don't know about that.
But if you are, you should be sharing that.
I got to be honest with you, folks. I'm not so sure that was truth, making a blanket statement like that. Because what the government shares with you sometimes and what may be another point of view or maybe otherwise is not always the same, okay? So the fact that somebody would sit back and this is the problem with regulating bodies. They're worried about, they're worried about appearance rather than doing the right thing for right reasons. How many times have I seen you or me or other people, all right, say, you know what, I didn't think of that. We need to do it that way. I bet I do that in practice every day with you guys, even in Little League. Hey, what about this? Do we need to say, you know what, you're right. We need to do that. I don't sit there and say, I've been coaching 30 years and I've always done it this way and this is what we're going to do and I don't care about that. No, let's find the best way to do it.
Don't work that way.
Set the ego crap behind us and let's go get them.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I agree. I got more comments. Let me take a quick break. We got to get out of here about 8:45 this morning. I've got to go do a fiber install.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com.
Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4 Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange.
And welcome back. I do have a few comments that came in. I'll share those with you. And this is something that a lot of folks don't think about, but you should think about it. Dion has some real health issues going on.
Yeah.
And, Milton says Dion knows he's one blood clot away from death, and he is still out there every day. He's had some major surgeries due to health issues, but he's the same guy. And Richie says one of the things that I like about Deion is this. He treats every player the same. When the TCU running back got hurt, he walked over to him, told him to get up, get back in the game, and to be the bully that I know you are. The TCU running back wanted to transfer to Colorado, and Deion didn't take him. There you go. There's a nice story. Let's see.
Holy cow. Oh, God.
Richie said that's like giving you a speeding ticket for doing 65 yesterday when it changed the speed limit to 55 today, going back to the other comments. For what you mentioned about Drake not being the leading passer in the game against App, Mac brought in an OC and O-line coach that wants to be able to run the ball more.
And they did. They got a great back. That kid's a good back.
They and many coaches don't want their quarterback to be the leading rusher. I don't want him to be the leading rusher, but he needs to be the leading passer if he's going to be a number one pick, in my opinion. Lindsay said definitely more balanced offensive approach this year. I'm digging the run game so far. I still think they have a little issue from the defensive side, even though they got Gene Chizik in there. Yeah. Milton said NCAA is irrelevant now, so they are not giving this one up. They want the press. Here's the thing. This is going to change because you're going to find some horses like a Carolina, like a Texas, Alabama. Yeah. They're going to say, screw the NCAA. We're going to go form our own association. We're going to negotiate our own deal and get out of this mess. And I wish they would. And I've got – maybe that'll be my topic for tomorrow on where I think things need to go. A lot of you aren't going to like it, but I'm going to tell you what I think about it. Stacy said, changing the subject, but my Bears really suck. Yeah, a lot of high hopes there, Stacy, but the Bears did not show up well. And then let me go back to Andrew because I haven't heard from Andrew in 2 weeks. Andrew and I are Clemson fans, but we differ on how we view things. If you saw some of the articles that came out after week 1, these are from national writers that are much more smarter and more versed in the things that they do. Okay, we'll just have to see where that goes. But there are 2 major things with Clemson that they're going to have to address, and this is coming from a lot of folks. I don't want Dabo replaced. Okay, let me go ahead and put that out there. Not the hugest fan, but I do not want him replaced. You got to be careful what you get, and who would you replace him with? Okay, I don't know. The problem is Dabo has got to understand that college football, major college football, the level that the Clemson fans expect to play at now, based on their history in the last 20 years, cannot rely on you being the top recruiter of kidding high school kids. That's not the way major college programs are built. You don't have to like it. That has nothing to do with it. It's not about like. And to borrow a phrase that I've heard a few times, it's not about your feelings. It is about you doing what's right for the program, for the supporters, for the boosters, and for your players to give them the best opportunity to win. Period. You don't have to agree with it, but you've got to do it. It's your job as a head coach to do what's best for your players. And Dabo's not doing that. Dabo has taken 2 players out of the portal, and they were both walk-on quarterbacks. I'm going to tell you something, folks. He better go find someone for his offensive line. His offensive line still needs to be addressed. And he doesn't have to like playing in the portal. He doesn't have to like NIL money. If he doesn't want to do that, then he needs to step back down to FCS. Okay? And just say, okay, here's where we're going to be. We don't care if we put 80,000 in a stadium. You don't have to like it, but you have to play by the same rules that everybody else is. Yep. Goes back to when I'm not condoning this, okay? Not condoning this at all. Back in the steroid era, when they weren't monitoring it, there were a lot of people taking steroids because they knew they couldn't compete if they didn't, because other players were taking them, and they had no choice if they wanted to compete at that level. Doesn't make it right, but that's the way it was because there was no rules against it at that time. Lindsay, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I really don't. I think if he has a disaster year this year, there could be some pressure there. And I've never felt like Clemson was one of those teams that could compete for a national championship year after year. I never have, okay? I'll take top 10, top 5, occasionally competing for that national championship. That is tough to do. Ask Alabama. Alabama's getting ready to fall off that pedestal. Whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. Going back to Carolina's defense, we talked about this when we watched the game. They play too soft in the secondary. They'll play 10 yards off on a wide receiver when it's 3rd and 5. Just like we've told our kids. Why are you playing defense in the end zone?
Yeah.
If you make a play in the end zone, it don't matter. They've already scored.
Yeah.
So you should never line up any deeper than the goal line.
Right.
Because that's what you've got to do. So I agree, Richie, and I'm just surprised. And here again, I'll have to – I wish I could hear what goes on through the headsets. Another piece that I read that I've complained about is Dabo holding that play sheet. I'm told by these other national writers that know more than I do that he is not involved in the play calling. He uses that to shield when he's talking, but he still, I would think, most head coaches or all head coaches are involved in the game plan and what we're going to do, how we're going to attack it, and those type things, instead of kind of letting your coordinators do it a little bit. Milton says all of Dabo's assistants are gone, so now he is lost. He lost some top-tier coordinators. Mm-hmm. He replaced them from within. That warms my heart, okay? It warms my heart. It ain't worth a damn to win if they ain't the best candidate for the job. I've always said when you have a premier program that can go out and cherry-pick, Alabama doesn't recruit. Alabama picks the kids that they want because they want to come play there. Michigan, other schools. So when you get to that level, you go find that coordinator that's hungry, that can get the job done. Maybe he did it with Lincoln Riley's little brother. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Most people think that TCU was a fluke last year. That's where he came from as the OC. Yeah. Dabo believes that if the players aren't committing to him out of high school, that means they don't want to be at Clemson. That's not necessarily true. I mean, you got to look at it. It is a different mentality in college football. It is now. That's what it is. Yeah.
It is now.
And he's got to get on board.
Yeah, it's definitely different now. 10, 15 years ago, I completely agree and understand that philosophy, even up until about 6, 7, 5 years ago, whatever. And, I don't know if that's his philosophy or not. I mean, that sounds accurate based on what we're seeing.
On what you see, and that's all you can do.
Right. And that's all we can, just based on what we see and then what we know, that's out there. I think one thing that, and we had our parent meeting last night with our youth kids, one thing I talked to them was about the growth and development of kids and how, how players, regardless of where they are in their playing career, whether it be in, the lowest level of youth league when they first start out, all this, of how they change, how much their bodies change. Even when you are a young man and you're 16 to 17 years old and you play a couple sports, which is great, do what you can do what you want to do, whatever. And then all of a sudden you start focusing on one when you're 18, 19 years old, your body grows into what we call the man body, okay, starts developing that. And now you're focused on one sport. So these kids that maybe didn't want to go to Clemson or felt they couldn't go, a couple years down the road, they get bigger, stronger, faster. They start developing the next stage.
There's a big difference between an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old.
Yes, and then all of a sudden, like, wait a minute, I can play there. It's not that kids may not want to go to Clemson or Carolina or ECU or Alabama. They maybe feel like they can't play right away and are looking for opportunity because that may be their goal. Most people would say, well, yeah, but they should want to go in and work hard and earn their spot. Well, in the transfer portal, that's not the way it works. Because you can go in and work as hard as you want to, but if a player from another university is better than you and that player decides to come in, those coaches appreciate how you went about your business and everything, but you're moved to the side and the new guy's in. We see that some in high school sports.
Let me address my wife's comment, and it's a little bit different from what I usually say. She said, come on now, you can never accuse Dabo of not doing what's best for his players on an individual basis. I'm not talking about a collective team. Yes, he could do a better job from that perspective, but he does not wait a minute, rolled off my comment. But from that perspective, that he does a lot for his players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me give you a change of philosophy. What we're doing now with 11 and 12-year-olds,
Yep.
what you would do with a middle school kid,
Yep.
what you would do with a high school kid, is you're building a foundation to make them a better man, father, and husband.
100%.
Okay?
Every day. Every day.
That's not what you do in major college football. I hate to say it, that's going to be second because they are there to win. Whether you like it or you don't, I'm not saying you kick all of your beliefs and faith to a different side. You incorporate it, but that's not your major thing.
Right.
You, like I am, or I don't mind saying, I was in it for the kids, for everything I did. Because if I take care of the kids and I teach the kids and the kids learn and get better, the wins and losses take care of themselves.
Yeah.
You don't do it the other way around. But when you get to college and major college programs, that part's got to be fixed.
Yeah.
You've got to be ready because there's not time to develop.
That's right.
You've got to be ready to do the job. Richie said Dabo may not be involved in the play calling, but there was a lot of national media posts from before the Duke game that he and Riley have collaborated on Clemson offense and what it needs to look like. That's what I'm talking about. That's where he needs to step away. He was never a coordinator. Ever, 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 ever. He was a wide receiver assistant when he got the head coaching job. And it had even been out of football a little bit before that. He got the job because he was one of the top 5 recruiters in the nation. And that's what, at that time, 16 years ago, it was about. Being able to pull those kids in.
Absolutely.
But you have to be able to step away and don't think, well, I've won 2 national championships. I'm the X's and O guy. No, you get somebody that is an X's and O guy, because you've also seen that just because you're a great coordinator doesn't make you a head coach.
We see that at all levels.
Some coordinators are better as coordinators than they are at head coaches. That doesn't always translate. I mean, you go look at some of the top coordinators in the NFL now, they have failed as head coaches. I mean, I can think of 5 or 6 off the top of my head. Yeah. So that's the way it has to be. Richie said the question I had about Riley being at TCU is what system he was running. Sonny Dykes' offense has been able to put points no matter where he has been. Here's the problem with that, okay? There are some major conferences in college football. I hate to tell you this. They don't play defense.
Well,
and the Big 12 was one of them.
Yeah, they basically can't, because most of the kids they recruit are offensive players. They get moved to defense, right? That's why when we talk about, being NFL ready, the SEC is where you go to make that measurable, determination, because the defensive players there are defensive players. Mm-hmm. And, we saw it, they had this big thing on the NFL, one of the NFL stations, pregame this week, talking about, why did Trey Lance not measure out like he was supposed to? Well, I mean, you put me in a baseball game even now with a bunch of 9 and 10-year-olds, and they throw the ball up there to me even at 51 years old. Mm-hmm. It's going to get ugly. Yeah. And all kidding aside, I'm not going to swing and miss a whole lot. That ball's going to go 300 feet, 200 feet over the fence, 150 feet over the fence. Mm-hmm. But yet you put me out in a high school game right now when the ball's a little faster and I'm out of sync. Mm-hmm. How you think I'm going to perform?
Oh, I know.
I can't run.
Me and you both.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I know.
I'm not criticizing Trey Lance or, Zach Wilson looked much better last night, but sometimes not being the man gets you to the next.
That is another one of my bottom line topics is how much, and I'll get to this one day, when you start looking at the combination of things that you have to have, how much is the player, the system they're in, and the system they came from, how much of that matters? Brock Purdy's a perfect example of that. Sometimes you've got to have, if you've got somebody that got the foundation but didn't get the exposure and they get hooked up with the right coach, they can become something. So there's a lot of ifs and buts there. 2 more comments. My wife said, I'm going to disagree with you again. Imagine that, just a little bit. And I think I've moved down the list now. I think I'm down below Dabo on my wife's pecking list. Rolo's at the top.
Rolo's
at the top, and then I think Dabo, and I've moved down. She said, but many, I'm fourth or fifth, but many of those kids have gotten none of that till they get to him. I'm going to disagree with you there, and here's why. I don't know that that's a little bit of his problem, and some of his recruiting, he's looking for some specific personality, internal characteristics, as well as their playing ability.
Yeah.
You know, is this a good kid like you and I've talked about? I want the kid that's coachable versus the one that's purely athletic and can't be coached.
Well,
because I can do more with them, and I think he's the same way.
Well, I mean, think of it. When you say I want the best athletes on the field, that's okay, but these are challenges that you deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, their athleticism a lot of times is what makes plays, but their lack of discipline
is how they handle
it. Is the reason that they're having to run all over the place to make the play.
Right.
When I'm constructing, whether it be a team or let's just say defense, for example, right? Because we talk a lot about that. In my interior 5, inside that box, I want guys up front that are, obviously strong and somewhat quick. But I want guys that will do their job. Because I don't want my inside linebacker having to run down the sideline to make a play because I have a defensive end, an outside linebacker, and a corner and a safety that can help in that regard, okay? I want my inside linebacker, all right, especially my strong backer, okay? He's like the fullback on the defense. I want him smashing and helping the nose with play side A, controlling B gap, which is the most manipulated gap in high school football, especially against veer teams and, counter kick teams. All right. And I want him helping backside A if he can. That's it. If you get to C, good for you. If you run him down the sideline, great. But I want that thing plugged. I don't really care about how fast somebody is. I want them to do their job. Okay, I need to make a shirt that says "Do your job." Do your job. That's all I want you to do.
We had a motto.
We need to make that T-shirt and send it out. We'll probably sell a million of them.
We had a motto when we came out of the dressing room, and I do not take credit for this. I just take credit for using it. But I thought it was one of the simplest phrases, and is completely true, 150%. If it's to be, it's up to me. Nobody else. Nothing else. Don't care what you think. If it's to be, it's up to me.
There's no other way it can be.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's not, if it's going to be, it's not up to Uncle Sam or to Mom and Dad.
You got to do it.
My neighbor or, oh, God, help me with this. I mean, how many first world problems do we all encounter every day that just stress us out? Like, oh, no, the agony when there's people starving. Not only, in other countries, but also, there's some kids that are hungry here too. At some point, the focus has got to be on the reality of all the situation that we function in on a daily basis. And that really, it's not that people's problems don't matter.
Prioritize.
But what we're seeing, Lou Holtz was right. Today's athlete is drastically different. That doesn't make them bad or wrong, but their focus is on rights and entitlements. The expectation of you're supposed to do this for me, all right, versus responsibilities and duties. What are the things that I need to do to ensure that I'm doing my job and then helping myself to improve? Why am I waiting on what I'm supposed to be given and worrying about that when I can focus on what I'm doing to achieve the next level? Now, again, I'm not criticizing. What I'm saying is that's the difference, in generations. Now, things will flip, and, whether it's right or wrong is left up to our viewers, and people that listen. But is that sustainable? How many failures do we see, not only in the sport, especially in pro sports, do we see because you're supposed to give this to me? Think about the injustices growing up that have been done to Antonio Brown and likely to the boy that was a running back,
Le'Veon Bell,
by not saying, look, you did this, you're accountable for it. Not, well, you're really fast, and so we're just going to do anything that you want to do. How did that work out for either one of them?
That's right.
You say, well, they got millions of dollars in a reality show. Well, yeah,
That's great.
That's a flash.
I bet they're still unhappy.
It's like the old camera flash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the self-fulfillment and the benefit of others? You got it. People want to focus outward. Oh, what's the problem? What's the problem? Turn it inside, right? Address the matters most important to being the best you can be, and stop worrying about stuff that doesn't matter in 5 years.
Yep.
Right? You know, and again, I worried about stuff that didn't matter in 5 years growing up, right?
My wife's
We're all
not happy.
kids. We're, you know,
She must not like my comments.
Yeah, I did. So.
Over on the table. Let me give Todd this comment because he'll be brokenhearted if I don't. He said he was at a meeting last night, and the chancellor of Western Carolina was there. Western won over the weekend, by the way. She told a room full of people that WCU must focus on funding athletics at a much higher level to become a better academic university. He said he about fell over. Well, let me tell you something. Your neighbors in the mountains, ask Appalachian. They just set a record for fall enrollment of almost 22,000 students. And it came because when they went to Michigan and accomplished what they did in athletics, it blew up the whole school because even if people didn't play, they wanted to be part of what was happening.
And they started investing in it before that.
That's right.
And this is the thing about it. The degree in your life is like a gateway. Your skill and the opportunities that are provided, right, through your focus, discipline, hard work, all that, are what take you to the next level. So, you know, this thing about, well, it should be about the degree and the academic. Let me tell you something. It's about the holistic experience.
Everything.
To make sure that you are able to fully maximize the degree in which you've received, and they work together.
Yep.
And the mindset that we were all programmed with growing up was not that way. And it was not the reality.
We didn't get as deep as I'd like to, but I got real job things calling me. Have a great day. We'll see you maybe tomorrow night. Juju comes in again Thursday. Have a good one.